Nueva Ecija is a landlocked province of the Philippines located in the Central Luzon region. Its capital is Bongabon City. Nueva Ecija borders, from the south clockwise, Bulacan, Pampanga, Tarlac, Pangasinan, Nueva Vizcaya, and Aurora. History: the sprawling and varied geological features of the land now known as Nueva Ecija, includes plains, mountains and rivers, all the requisites for the birthing and sustenance of life itself. The land's very first settlers came upon three mountain ranges to the east, north and west and vast southern plains. All these were sustained by a great flowing river, one whose earliest name was spoken in a now lost tongue, and which was called the Rio Grande Pampanga by the Spaniards later on. The great Pampanga River nourished wild, fruit-bearing trees, served as home to an abundance of fish and made possible lush, teeming woodlands that sheltered animals. All these combined must have been paradise in whatever language for the land's earliest settlers, who were able to not only survive but thrive in the surrounding abundance, all within easy reach. These first settlers included tribes of Ilongots or Italans, Abeca and Bicuids. Settlements were built along the banks following the river's undulations. The Ilongots, meaning people of the forest, were the fierce headhunters and animist tribes who occupied Caranglan and the mountainous terrain of Sierra Madre and Caraballo. The headhunting communities were nestled along the riverbanks of Rio Grande's tributaries in the north. Abeca and Italan were subgroups of Ilongots meaning river settlers. Ilongots survived mainly by fishing and hunting. Food production was a secondary occupation. The agriculture-based community of Caraclans and Bicuids were settled in Bongabon and Pantabangan along the riverbanks of Rio Grande's tributaries in the northeast. When the waves of Malay migrations took place between 300–200 BC, intrepid travelers and traders set up settlements along Luzon's western coast. These early settlements formed the nucleus of the Pampanga Empire that was consolidated by Balagtas. The flatlands of the southern portion of Upper Pampanga was a hospitable place for these new Malay settlers. The indigenous tribes were forced to take to the hills in the face of the Malays' superior technology. Barter trade flourished among communities that settled along the Great River. The constant riverside trading resulted in both a commercial and cultural exchange between the settlements in vast plains upstream of the Rio Grande Pampanga. Settlements in Caranglan, Pantabangan, Bongabon and Punkin prospered and grew into more stable communities. When the Pampanga Empire fell into the hands of Spanish forces under the command of Martin de Goiti in 1572, the conquistadors began their long upward trek towards Cagayan Valley and Mountain Province. Their forces passed through the settlement areas of the Upper Pampanga River. Because of growing territorial domain and evangelical missions, a command outpost or commandancia in the Upper Pampanga River area was established. Then Governor-General Fausto Cruz at Ngora had most likely spent much of his time in the northern outpost in Caranglan and Pantabangan and, baking in the fiercely hot climate, probably waxed nostalgic about his hometown in Ecija, Andalusia in Spain. Ecija, Andalusia was also known as El Sartén or the frying pan because of its intensely hot summers. Thus the Governor-General hit upon the notion to name the outpost Nueva. Both the new and old Ecija were washed by navigable rivers, the former, by Rio Grande Pampanga and the latter, by the River Genil. Seeds of faith and civilization, consistent with the history of civilization in the rest of Philippine archipelago, Nueva Ecija was born from the fires of Catholic faith that spurred missionaries to convert the pagan communities despite many dangers and difficulties. Augustinian missionaries executed early evangelical missions in Nueva Ecija. Its first founded mission was established in Gapan in 1595. Considered to be a big pueblo, Gapan embraced an area as far as north of Cabanatuan. The succeeding missions progressed slowly due to inaccessible terrain and limited manpower. Hence, the Augustinians abandoned their missionary work in 1636, maintaining only the mission in Bongabon. At the turn of the 18th century, the missionaries resumed their evangelical work and redirected their efforts to the northeast, towards rough, mountainous terrain inhabited by Ilongots. The Augustinians hurdled the difficulties brought about by ferocious headhunting tribes in completing their missions in the north. they successfully laid down the foundation of Christian way of life among ferocious and warlike villages in the province. In September 1, 1759, King Carlos III of Spain issued a royal decree that ended the founding missions of Augustinians and transferred all Augustinian responsibilities in the settlements of Nueva Ecija to Franciscan friars. This was a milestone in the development of the missions in the province. Through tribute collections and polo y servicio or rendering of forced labor, the Franciscans constructed churches, convents, parochial schools and tribunals. They also constructed roads and bridges to connect other settlements. In 1781, a simple irrigation system was constructed in Pantabangan. This new farming technology contributed to the promotion of agriculture in the province. New province. To make possible the establishment of settlements, military force became necessary to protect the friars and whatever basic settlement structures were beginning to emerge. Thus military outposts were of utmost importance, especially with the friars trying to convert fierce head-hunting tribes with spears and bladed weapons. It was around this time, during the term of Governor-General Fausto Cruz at y Góngora, that he established the military outpost he named Nueva Ecija. At this time, however, Nueva Ecija was still part of Upper Pampanga. It was only later in 1848 that Nueva Ecija was established as a separate province independent from Pampanga. This was accompanied by changes in its territorial composition over the next 10 years. The progressive towns of Gapan, San Isidro, Cabao and Aliaga were all annexed to Nueva Ecija, resulting in an economic as well as population boom for all the inhabitants. While Nueva Ecija only had a population of 9,165 in 1845, the annexation of new territories 3 years later pegged the population at 69,135. Other changes in territorial composition happened in the following years until, in 1901, Nueva Ecija's northern municipalities of Balangay, Rosales, San Quintin and Umingan were annexed to Pangasinan. Nueva Ecija's shifting political boundaries in fact, necessitated transferring its provincial capital 4 times. Still, these changes proved ultimately beneficial to Nueva Ecija, as they resulted in a territory with rich land resources nourished by an excellent river system composed of the Rio Grande Pampanga, Cholera and Panorama rivers. This would help lay the foundation for Nueva Ecija's abundant agricultural economy starting with the American occupation in the early 20th century. Cry of Nueva Ecija. The Cry of Nueva Ecija is the 1896 revolutionary battle led by General Mariano Llanuera, manned and assisted by General Manuel Tinio of Gapan City, Nueva Ecija and Colonel Alipio Texan of Cabao, Nueva Ecija who later on became Brigadier General. The battle was fought in Cabao, Nueva Ecija. Alipio Texan would eventually become Governador Silo of Cabao, Nueva Ecija. Tobacco monopoly. Maintaining the Philippines as a colony became a challenge for the Spanish Empire. Expenses incurred in running the colony were usually paid for by a yearly subsidy sent from the Philippines' sister colony in Mexico. This financial support from the Spanish royal court was often insufficient, especially with expenditures in the Philippine colony growing each year. This prompted the royal fiscal assigned in Manila to devise a plan to allow the colony itself to raise revenues on its own and thus be able to supplement the Spanish subsidy. This royal fiscal was Francisco Lendro de Viana, who first proposed creating a tobacco monopoly. De Viana reasoned, tobacco was a product widely consumed throughout the islands, with a market of roughly 1 million. He projected earnings of as much as P400,000 from the venture. The first time the proposal was made, however, both King Carlos III of Spain and colonial officials didn't give the idea much importance. All that would change during the term of Governor-General José Basco y Vargas. Basco had plans to develop and promote Philippine agriculture, and de Viana's proposal seemed attractive to him. After studying the proposal, Basco sent his plan to establish a large-scale tobacco production in the colony under complete ownership and management by the colonial government of Spain. What probably perked up the ears of the Spanish king about Basco's plan to make the Philippine colony financially self-sufficient, thus removing a huge financial burden from the Spanish crown. the King of Spain issued a royal decree on February 9, 1780 setting in motion Basco's plan. Almost 2 years to the date of that royal decree, Basco ordered local officials and military commanders to prevent unnecessary losses of tobacco revenues. By March 2, 1782 tobacco production was established in Luzon, with La Union, Ilocos, Abra, Cagayan Valley and Nueva Ecija as the centers for planting, growing, harvesting and processing tobacco. This made a drastic and extreme change in the lives of all Nueva Ecijanos. Where farmland used to bear rice, tobacco was now the only crop allowed to grow. These included the towns of Gapan, San Isidro, Jan, Cabao, Cabanatuan, Talavera, Santor and Bongabon. Each farming family was given a quota of tobacco plant to grow. By 1850 the tobacco monopoly was producing immense financial gain for the colonial government. Some reports at the time pegged the earnings by as much as $500,000. One account in 1866 reported a much higher amount, as earnings rose to $38,418,939 that year. Nueva Ecija suffered a lot from the system. Nueva Ecija was more often able to meet production quotas compared to the other districts. Despite this, tobacco policy imposed a lower price on tobacco from areas closer to Manila. That meant that first-class tobacco leaf grown and harvested from Nueva Ecija was priced lower by $1, compared to those from Ilocos, La Union and Cagayan Valley. The tobacco monopoly did not spur Nueva Ecijanos to revolt, unlike the Ilocanos who staged an uprising over injustices in the system. Some tobacco growers in Nueva Ecija resorted to smuggling their own harvests in order to get some profit. But getting caught entailed harsher fines and penalties. Even sympathetic local officials had no choice but to enforce the unjust policies under pain of arrest and hard labor, once laxity on their part resulted in low production. The flourishing tobacco industry coupled with the rich agricultural lands in central and northeastern Nueva Ecija also attracted migrants from neighboring Pampanga, Ilocos and Tagalog areas. This made Nueva Ecija a melting pot of cultures and influences, the results of which are still evident in present-day Nueva Ecijano culture. As the tobacco monopoly fueled further unrest, Spain finally abolished the monopoly on December 3, 1882. It was only then that they could all once again grow rice for food. Freedom fighters. One distinct feature of the 1896 revolution against Spain in Nueva Ecija was that it was led by the elite, ruling class instead of the masses. Leaders of the revolt in Nueva Ecija were municipal officials and prominent citizens, who refused to collaborate with the Spanish authorities when armed struggle broke out. Despite being in the ruling class and enjoying positions in the colonial government, these prominent Nueva Ecijanos proved their patriotism and love for fellow Filipinos. In fact, one of the founding members of the reform movement La Liga Filipina was lawyer and Nueva Ecijano Maymato Natividad. By the time the Katipunan, the revolutionary movement against Spain, was formed, Nueva Ecijanos were actively yet secretly joining it. Even local officials in Nueva Ecija secretly allied with the illustradors and farmers in forming the underground Revolutionary Society. Once the Spanish authorities learned of the Katipunan's existence, those perceived as sympathizers of the movement, and even those who were falsely accused of being members of it, were arrested. Maymato Natividad was among those arrested for sedition, tortured and killed by Guardia Civil. He was one of the first Nueva Ecijano martyrs for freedom. His death however, would result in bigger problems for the Spanish authorities. Maymato Natividad's two sons, Maymato Jr. and Benito Natividad, later joined the Katipunan. The Spaniards burned their house and sugar mills in Jan. Maymato Jr. was later jailed for shooting a Spanish judge who had slapped his younger brother. As the revolution gained ground, Maymato Jr. was released and he was able to join the revolutionary army of General Emilio Aguinaldo in Cavite. By August 30, 1896 a state of war was declared by the Spanish colonial government in several Luzon provinces including Nueva Ecija, Bulacan, Pampanga, Tarlac, Batangas, Laguna, Cavite and Manila. Nueva Ecijanos immediately proved themselves worthy of the fight for freedom. On September 2, 1896, Nueva Ecija led by Captain Mariano Lanura and Captain Pantaleon Varmonte of Gapan attacked San Isidro, the provincial capital. Their 3,000-strong army attacked San Isidro in distinct Nueva Ecija fashion, accompanied by music played by the Banda de Cabao or Cabao Band. It seems that in love or war, music is integral to Nueva Ecija. Nueva Ecija like Lanura, Varmonte, Mamoto Natividad, Jr. and Manuel Tino conducted themselves heroically during the revolution. They were allied with Aguinaldo's Magdalo group. Aguinaldo was in fact so impressed, he appointed Natividad and Lanura to the two highest-ranking posts in the Revolutionary Army. Natividad became General Mamoto Natividad, commanding general of the Revolutionary Army, while General Lanura was vice-commander with the rank of lieutenant general. General Natividad proved himself worthy of the position by scoring victories against the Spanish in Tarlac, Pangasinan and San Rafael, Bulacan. On November 11, 1897, Natividad's life would end after he was killed in action in Carabao, Nueva Ecija. His death precipitated the Pact of Biak-na-Bato, a peace treaty that sought to end hostilities between Spanish authorities and the Filipino rebels. The treaty provided for a payment of P800,000 to the rebels who would then be exiled to Hong Kong. 5 Nueva Ecija would accompany Aguinaldo's exile. They were General Mariano Lanura, Benito Natividad, General Manuel Tino, and Joaquin Natividad. Later on, Nueva Ecija would continue to participate in the drama of war, revolution and the fight for freedom. They would fight when the revolt against Spain continued after the peace treaty broke down, and the United States, after declaring war on Spain, promised to help Filipinos fight for freedom. Then, Nueva Ecija again joined General Emilio Aguinaldo in the Filipino-Euro-American War. Then when the Japanese tried to make the Philippines their own colony at the outbreak of the Second World War in the Pacific, Nueva Ecija would also make history by participating in guerrilla activities. The exploits of the Nueva Ecija guerrillas have in fact been made into literature, through the World War II novel Ghost Soldiers by Hampton Sides and in Hollywood cinema, in the war film The Great Raid based on the book. Begins the liberation of Nueva Ecija on 1945. Combined military forces of all stronghold Filipino troops under the Philippine Commonwealth Army and Philippine Constabulary units and the American troops under the United States Armed Forces liberated the province of Nueva Ecija and helped them from the Nueva Ecija and Hukbalip resistance against the Japanese imperial forces and aftermath in World War II. American period. History records how the Filipino-Euro-American War began after American troops killed a Filipino soldier who was crossing the San Juan Bridge on February 4, 1899. One could also say however that hostilities and mistrust really began as early as August 13 the previous year. On that day, the Spanish colonial government in Intramuros surrendered to American forces instead of the Filipino soldiers that surrounded the walled city. Thus began the United States' own effort to have her own colonies, with the Philippines served, as it were, on a silver platter by the dying Spanish Empire thanks to the Treaty of Paris. When the war between Filipinos and Americans finally began, the fate of the infant Republic of the Philippines again lay in the hands of General Aguinaldo and his most trusted men who included Nueva Ecija like General Lanura and General Tino. And, as guerrilla warfare became an effective tactic for the Filipinos, Nueva Ecija were among the most feared guerrillas around. Both the Nueva Ecija and Americans were willing to resort to brutal tactics, torture and even atrocious killings in the course of the war. 2 Nueva Ecija were deported and exiled in Guam for not taking allegiance to the American government. They were General Mariano Lanura and Colonel Alipio Texan. By the time the war ended on April 1, 1901 with Aguinaldo's surrender to the Americans, Nueva Ecija guerrillas who had fought so fiercely and bravely against 2 sets of foreign invaders reluctantly gave up. Still, that was not the end of the association between them and the Americans. The end of the Filipino-Euro-American War also signaled a new beginning for Nueva Ecija and its people. The railway, before the American occupation, Nueva Ecija was already a hub of trade and commerce. Since Nueva Ecija in the 19th century had neither excellent roads nor the ideal land transport system, trading activities were done mainly through the waterways. While we moderns consider rivers as obstacles that need to be crossed, people in the 19th century valued rivers not just as sources of food and water but as passages for trading barges and boats. Thus, Nueva Ecija's early trading settlements sprouted along river banks. Commercial, interprovincial trade was carried out using the Rio Grande de Pampanga as main waterway, with trade outposts in San Isidro and Tarlac. Traders from Bulacan, Tondo and Manila regularly came to Nueva Ecija to carry back rice, palay, tobacco, sugar, corn and livestock. The Americans, however, wanted to shift from waterborne trade to a land-based trade system. Their idea for establishing this depended on something they were masters at, building railways. The American colonial government thought a railway could help boost Nueva Ecija's economic growth, in the same way that the U.S. railway system helped unite and develop the economy of the North American continent. What made the railway project attractive was that it was less expensive than building roads. At first run by a private company, the U.S. colonial government took over the ownership and management of the railway system by 1917. The Americans were soon proven right. Trade conducted through the railways boosted Nueva Ecija's income by 25% while transport costs went down by 25% to as much as 75%. With the train able to transport more goods and more people at a cheaper rate, the railway helped spark a rice boom in Bulacan, San Isidro, Cabanatuan, Santa Rosa and Penaranda. Farmers could devote more land to growing rice and even secondary crops like onions and watermelons. More rice mills, farmers and farmer settlers came to Nueva Ecija. By 1936, there were 42 rice mills in Nueva Ecija, owned mostly by Chinese. The agriculture-based economic boom brought about by the train's huge load capacity and greater speed encouraged waves of migrations to Nueva Ecija from places like Ilocos, Pampanga, Pangasinan, Tarlac and Bulacan. The railway brought other changes to Nueva Ecija. While trade was still being done by waterways, settlements by necessity had to be established close to the rivers, where people's basic necessities come from. When the trains became the main mode of transporting goods and people, and with the influx of migrants, it became not only possible but crucial to build more communities further inland. This meant roads and irrigation systems were needed. Roads and irrigation, as communities expanded inward, first along the rivers and then along the railways, the need for roads and irrigation systems leading to communities in the plains became more urgent. These made it possible for the more remote towns those further away from both rivers and railroads to grow crops and participate in trade, ending what was until then a very slow pace of economic development. By 1912 Governor Benito Natividad had appropriated funds to fast-track the building of roads and bridges linking these remote towns and municipalities to then-provincial capital Cabanatuan. The American government also constructed 3 major irrigation facilities, 1, the Talavera Irrigation System in 1924. 2, Penaranda River Irrigation System in 1930 and 3, Pampanga River Irrigation System in 1939. By the time these irrigation systems went in full swing, combined with the railway system and the many rice mills, Nueva Ecija had been established as the rice granary of the Philippines. From 1930 to 1939, rice production in Nueva Ecija was averaging more than 9 million cavans of rice. Homesteading and U.S.-style tenancy, unlike the American pioneers of the Old West, Filipinos were not so willing to occupy remote, unsettled and undeveloped areas. So when the American colonial government introduced homesteading, there were few takers among Filipinos. Essentially, homesteading happens when someone lays claim on, harnesses the resources and develops a parcel of land, even if it's still wilderness and far from population centers, for economic use. Homesteading could be done through a legal process of acquiring a land title, or even without a title at all. In the latter case however, the lack of a title makes the informal homesteader vulnerable to any legal action attempting to take the land away from him. When the Philippine Bill of 1902 was passed by the U.S. Congress, the U.S. colonial government was formally established in the Philippine Islands. This meant the colonial government now had the authority to dispose of public lands on its own, without having to seek the approval of the President of the United States. Based on an earlier survey of public lands by the Philippine Commission, the new American colonial government offered public lands to settlers through homesteading, sale, purchase or lease. Under the American regime's homesteading system, an individual could get up to 16 hectares of land, while a corporation could get as much as 1,024 hectares. This did not result in a wide settlement of lands throughout the country, however. Nueva Ecija was one exception, as more and more settlers opted to homestead its lands. A 1928 statistical bulletin records nearly 70,000 hectares were given to more than 5,000 homestead applicants. Among the immigrant settlers of Nueva Ecija, the Ilocanos were mainly responsible for opening up through their homesteads the once sparsely populated, remote areas of the province. Much like the early American pioneers, the Ilocanos tamed the land and turned what was once hostile wilderness into habitable and productive land. However, the homesteading effort under the American regime resulted in a drop in tenancy in 1918. It ultimately failed in succeeding decades. This was due to two major factors. First, the new farmer settlers did not have enough capital to sustain farming costs. Without any financial assistance available from the government that granted them the land, farmer settlers accumulated huge debts at very high interest rates from usurious money lenders. Most of these homesteaders were later forced to sell their land and become tenant farmers instead. Civil government in the American period. The civil governments established in various provinces in the Philippines under the American occupation were supposed to teach Filipinos the basic principles of democracy, following U.S. military rule. In general, each provincial government presided over local governments in each town or municipality. In turn, each municipality would have a president, vice president and municipal councilors. These were elected by a select group of qualified electors for 2-year terms. The Second Philippine Commission went to what was then Nueva's provincial capital, San Isidro, on June 8, 1901 to begin proceedings for establishing the local and provincial governments. 16 out of Nueva Ecija's 19 towns were represented in the meeting. Elections of various representatives from the different towns were carried out successfully. However, there was still the thorny problem of deciding whether or not to move the provincial capital. The dilemma was caused by events related to the Filipino-Euro-American War. First, Nueva Ecija had been a hotbed of resistance against the American occupation, and was therefore in a state of siege. 4 of its towns, Balangay, Rosales, San Quentin and Umingan, which were further away from the capital and already considered pacified by U.S. forces, had been annexed to the province of Pangasinan. The newly elected Nueva Ecija representatives were of the view that since a civil government under the Americans was already being established, it was time to return the 4 towns to Nueva Ecija. This would benefit the province as the 4 towns were rich in natural resources. The fact that the towns were quite far from the capital, one of the representatives suggested, was no obstacle. The provincial capital could simply be moved to Cabanatuan. Other representatives objected to this proposal, pointing out that Cabanatuan had no infrastructures wherein to house the provincial government. The matter was not resolved until 2 years later, when the U.S. Governor-General signed Act No. 1748, ordering the transfer of the capital to Cabanatuan by 1912. The civil provincial government of Nueva Ecija was formally established by the Taft Commission on June 11, 1901. The very first governor under this new system was Epifanio de los Santos. Interestingly, the main artery connecting most of Metro Manila has been named after Governor de los Santos, which is Epifanio de los Santos Avenue or simply, EDSA. Education during the American period. It was the Americans who succeeded in making education widely available to Filipinos. While the Spanish government did, rather belatedly in their rule, decide to establish public schools, it was the Americans who were able to improve it. A report of the United States Philippine Commission in 1900 showed, only 10 out of 23 municipalities in Nueva Ecija had a public school established during the Spanish times, and according to the Philippine Commission figures by 1902, 37 public primary schools were established. and 63 Novoecijano teachers supported by 16 American Thomasides, part of the larger group of some 500 pioneer American teachers who arrived aboard the USATA Thomas in September 1901, to help establish an American public school system in the Philippines. The Education Act No. 74 approved by the Philippine Commission in 1901 proved to be the catalyst that made Novoecijano's rally behind the local and American teachers to make sure as many children as possible benefited from the public school system. People contributed in the form of cash, construction materials or labor, and even vacant lots for the building of schools. Community support for the building of schools was such that by 1906, there were already 99 schools in Nueva Ecija. The Novoecijano's high regard for the value of an education is a trait that persists until today. The public school system was still hampered by a lot of problems, however. Relying only on local support, Nueva Ecija could simply not meet the increasing needs of a growing number of schools, teachers and students. Given the high premium placed by Novoecijanos on education, a legislator from Nueva Ecija took the crucial step to compel the American colonial government to allot funding for public education via a legislative act. Assemblyman Isidro Gabaldon of Nueva Ecija filed an education bill before the 1907 Philippine Assembly, which would later be approved and known as the Gabaldon Education Act. The bill required government to earmark P1 million for public schools throughout the Philippine Islands. Nueva Ecija benefited tremendously from the new education law. By 1908 Nueva Ecija had 144 primary schools, 11 non-sectarian private schools, 18 sectarian private schools, 9 intermediate schools, 1 vocational school and 1 agricultural school, the Central Luzon Agricultural School, which is currently now operating as Central Luzon State University. World War II. During World War II the Imperial Japanese Army entered the province and Nueva Ecija was taken in 1942. On March 29, 1942, under the leadership of Luis Tarlac the Hukbalap was organized in Sitio Boyet, Barrio San Julian in the town of Cabao. It was perceived to be the military arm of the Partido Comunista ng Pilipinas, that brought about the beginning of the early organized resistance of the Filipino people. During World War II under the Japanese occupation, the Philippine Commonwealth Army has the re-establishment of the military general headquarters, military bases and camps here in the province of Nueva Ecija on 1942 to 1946 before the engagements of the anti-Japanese imperial military operations in Central Luzon include Nueva Ecija, Pampanga, Tarlac, Zambales, Bulacan in northern Tibas from 1942 to 1945 and aided the local recognized guerrillas and the Hukbalap communist guerrillas against the Japanese imperial forces since the Japanese counterinsurgencies in the Allied liberation. In January to August 1945, combined American and Filipino soldiers liberated Nueva Ecija with the recognized guerrillas continuing to harass the Japanese at every opportunity. When Filipino soldiers of the 2nd, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 25th and 26th Infantry Division of the Philippine Commonwealth Army and the 2nd Infantry Regiment of the Philippine Constabulary was re-invading launches to entering liberated the province of Nueva Ecija and helping recognized guerrilla resistance fighter units, the Hukbalap communist guerrillas and the American troops against the Japanese imperial forces during the invasion of Nueva Ecija. On January 30, 1945 American Army Rangers, Alamo Scouts and Filipino guerrillas conducted a raid to liberate Allied civilians and prisoners of war in Cabanatuan. This was successful with over 516 rescued. By January 31, 1945, the liberated civilians and POWs reached Talavera. The rescue is commemorated in Talavera. Geography, physical, the province is the largest in Central Luzon. Its terrain begins with the southwestern marshes near the Pampanga border. It levels off and then gradually increases in elevation to rolling hills as it approaches the mountains of Sierra Madre in the east, and the Caraballo and Cordillera ranges in the north. Districts. The province is divided into 4 congressional districts which consists of 27 municipalities and 5 cities. The province has the most number of cities in Central Luzon. Subdivisions, component cities, Cabanatuan City, Gapan City, Palayan City, San Jose City, Science City of MUE plus or minus Oz, municipalities. Economy. Nueva Ecija is considered the main rice-growing province of the Philippines and the leading producer of onions in the municipality of Bongabon in Southeast Asia. It is currently the 9th richest province in the country. Major industries. Nueva Ecija is one of the top producers of agricultural products in the country. Its principal crops is mainly rice, but corn and onion are also produced in quantity. The province is often referred to as the rice granary of the Philippines. Other major crops are onion, mango, calamansi, banana, garlic, and vegetables. The town of Bongabon at the eastern part of the province at the foot of the Sierra Madre Mountains and its neighboring Lara and Rizal are the major producers of onion and garlic. Bongabon is called the onion capital of the country. A sunflower farm is also housed inside the Central Luzon State University campus in Science City of MUE plus or minus Oz. Education is very well established as a major industry in the province. The leading educational institutions are the Central Luzon State University in Science City of Munoz and Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology, Wesleyan University Philippines, the only internationally accredited school in Central Luzon. College of the Immaculate Conception, La Fortuna College and Aurora University in Cabanatuan City. There are 18 tertiary-level institutions in Cabanatuan City alone. Health services is also a notable industry and a number of hospitals cater to patients from within Nueva Ecija and some coming from neighboring provinces. There are also a number of schools of nursing and midwifery, mostly in Cabanatuan City. There are poultry farms in a number of towns, most notably, the Lorenzo Poultry Farms in San Isidro, which is one of the largest in the country. Duck raising and egg production is also an important livelihood. Fish ponds are unevenly distributed throughout the province, but the largest concentrations are in San Antonio, Santa Rosa, and Quiapo. Fabrication of tricycle sidecars is widespread in the province, notably in Santa Rosa, where prices are as low as PHP 7000, which is practically the cheapest in the country. Several areas have mineral deposits. Copper and manganese have been found in General Tinio, Caranglan, and Pantabangan. The upper reaches of Caranglan and Palayan City are said to contain gold. In June 2008, it has also received the title, Milk Capital of the Philippines, due to the reason that Nueva Ecija gathers more milk from both cows and carabaos or water buffaloes than any other place in the Philippines. The Philippine Carabao Center is located in CLSU Compound and Science City of Munoz. Government. Current government officials. The current governor of the province is Elio Macias Armali, serving as vice governor is Jose Gay G. Paidanos. Demographics. Total population of the province of Nueva Ecija as of May 1, 2010, based on the 2010 Census of Population and Housing. The census counts up to the barangay level were made official with the signing by President Benigno S. Aquino III of Proclamation No. 362 on March 30, 2012. Tourist attractions. Nueva Ecija is the largest province and the biggest rice producer of Central Luzon and the Philippines, thus, often referred to as the Rice Bowl of the Philippines. Historical Gapan City. The first Augustinian mission in lowland Nueva Ecija was founded in Gapan City in 1595. It is home to a Roman Catholic church of Byzantine architecture built from 1856 to 1872. Historic Barrio Labay. The rest house of the Quezon family is located in this barrio, along the national highway going to Baila, Aurora. It is also the place of death of Mrs. Aurora Quezon, wife of former Philippine President Manuel Luis Quezon. Tabacalera of San Isidro. Centuries-old brick walls of the Tabacalera in San Isidro remain as witness to the Nueva Ecijanos' 100-year oppression, from 1782 to 1882, when the province became the center of the tobacco monopoly in Central Luzon and was thus restricted from raising other crops. General Luna statue and marker. A statue of Philippine hero General Antonio Luna astride a horse stands at the plaza in front of the cathedral on the exact spot where the brave general was assassinated in 1899 in the city that adopted him subsequently. Apolinario Mabini marker, site of the arrest of Philippine hero Apolinario Mabini, known as the Sublime Paralytic, by the Americans on December 10, 1899. Trial House, owned by revolutionary leader and Nueva Ecija General Manuel Tinio. Built during the early Commonwealth period, it features ornately designed turn-of-the-century furniture and a life-size figure of esteemed Nueva Ecija Don Capitan Barong in stained glass. Stucco of San Isidro, the Grand Stucco House in San Isidro, which General Emilio Aguinaldo frequented, marks this gallant town that has proven time and again to be cradle of Filipino heroes. It was here that General Frederick Funston planned the capture of Aguinaldo, first President of the Philippine Republic, during the Filipino-Euro-American War. Wright Institute of San Isidro, one of the first high schools established outside Metro Manila during the American period. Dalton Pass, located in Kapintalan, Caranglan, the 5-hectare area blessed with a cool climate houses the monument of General Dalton and a tower that borders the provinces of Nueva Ecija and Nueva Vizcaya. Uphill is a World War II memorial in black marble where a historical account of the war had been etched in English and Japanese. Camp Pangasinan began as a military training camp for 20 years until converted into a concentration camp for Allied prisoners of war during the Japanese occupation. A popular tourist destination among war veterans by way of the WWII Veterans Homecoming Program. Cultural churches of Nampakuan, Caranglan, and Pantabangan, church ruins of identical Augustinian architecture can still be found in the 3 upland missions. Natural Minalungay Park, declared as a national park, it features a breathtaking view of the narrow but deep Penaranda River. On both sides of the riverbank are 16-meter-high limestone walls. The ridge formation of white sculptured limestone walls shows the might of the great river. General Luna Fall, the easternmost barrio of Rizal nestled uphill on the foot of the Sierra Madre mountain range boasts of one of Central Luzon's hidden treasures, a towering waterfall of more than 100 feet descending widely across a rocky mountain wall into over 20 pools of varying levels and depths. Mount Olivet, a 100-step stair leads to the church built by the Adanista spiritual community on the mountain top. Frequented by pilgrims who bathe in and drink the water of its springs believing it to be medicinal. Kapintalan, maintained by the Kalanuya tribal community from Ifugao, its rivers and low-lying hill are ideal for hiking and communing with nature. A gateway to the Cagayan Valley, it was a strategic location during WWII's liberation period. Tunnels, war artifacts, and stories of gold digging abound in the area. Palespas Falls, located in San Jose City, it is ideal for picnics and bathing especially during summer. Gabaldon Falls, the lure of Gabaldon, Nueva Ecija. The 10-feet falls are surrounded by huge rock formations and rippling ice-cold water. Located within the 200-hectare Sabani Estate Agricultural College. Religious Church of Penaranda. The Church of Penaranda was erected in 1869 by Fr. Florentino Simonti. Construction was continued by Fr. Candico San Miguel from 1879 to 1881 and by Fr. Santos Vega from 1887 to 1889. From 1889 to 1891, the parochial house of bricks and wood was built by Fr. Valentin Gato La Fuente. Fr. Alvaro Caliga built the original church with thatch roof and stone walls. Man-made Diamond Park, strategically located at the gateway to the Cagayan Valley, it is a haven for picnics and sightseeing. Its 100-step stair leads to lamp-lit pagodas nestled on hilltops and offering a panoramic view of northern Nueva Ecija. Pantabangan Dam, built in 1974 along the Pampanga River to serve as reinforcement against flood, and provide irrigation, additional electricity in the entire Luzon Island. The dam was built by Filipino engineers under the supervision of the National Irrigation Administration. Pantabangan Dam is now one of the most visited tourist spots in the province. The place offers a scenic view of the surrounding area. Tourists will also appreciate the dam's engineering wonders. Philippine Rice Research Institute. The Philippine Rice Research Institute, located at Maligaya, Science City of MUE ± Oz, Nueva Ecija, is the central station of agricultural experimentation. It is the only one of its kind throughout the country. It was created to develop and implement a natural rice research and development program, sustain the grains made in rice production and solve location-specific problems of the rice industry. A variety of rice wine is produced at the center. Central Luzon State University, located in the outskirts of the science city of NUE ± Nueva Ecija, the 658-hectare main campus of CLSU is famous for its old shady trees, model farm, vegetable and ornamental plant gardens. Nueva Ecija has been referred to as the agricultural central of Luzon. Agricultural Museum, a socio-cultural arm for information in Central Luzon, it is the first and the only one of its kind in the country. The materials on display are preserved and maintained to promote the cultural heritage of Filipinos in Central Luzon. The museum has 6 sections: rice and vegetable planting implements, household ingredients utensils, personal apparel, hunting and fishing implements. Living Fish Museum, showcases indigenous and tropical freshwater fishes collected from different provinces in Luzon. Rubber Dam Linora, Nueva Ecija, Asia's first and only rubber dam, special interest farm tours, tour of agri-based institutions of Science City of NUE ± in Nueva Ecija, including a farming technology tour at the Central Luzon State University and plant tour of the Philippine Rice Research Institute and Philippine Carob Center. Gross Ostrich Farm San Leonardo, Nueva Ecija, located in Barrio. Tegumpay, San Leonardo, Gross Ostrich Farm grows, breeds and propagates imported ostriches both for human consumption and for tourism, such as sale of decorative eggs, leather wallets, colorful feathers and other byproducts. Ostriches reach a height of about 7 (8 feet, weighs 110 (130 kg, runs at a speed of 60 km/h, has a lifespan of 50 (80 years and a breeding life of 20 (25 years. Thar Farm produces fillet meat at P600 per kiloliter, steak at P500 per kiloliter and stir-fry at P400 per kiloliter. On-site farm visits to view the big birds in their natural habitat are organized for students and professionals alike. CLSU Concrete Tank Culture for Tilapia Science City of NUE ± Nueva Ecija, this one-of-a-kind breeding farm showcases intensive culture of tilapia in concrete circular tanks, with provisions for continuous water exchange and aeration. Each tank is stocked with 6,000 tilapia fingerlings. Estimated output is 1,000 kg of table-size fish after 4 months of culture. Philippine Carob Center, Science City of NUE ± Nueva Ecija, the Philippine Carob Center was created in 1993 as an offshoot of the Carob Development Program, through Republic Act 7307. It is an attached agency of the Department of Agriculture, mandated to conserve, propagate and promote the Carob as a source of draft animal power, meat, milk and hide, to benefit the rural farmers. Services at the center include artificial insemination, bull loan, production of quality breeding animals and germplasm, technical assistance and training and Carob-based enterprise development. The center breeds and crossbreeds, through artificial insemination, animals called Mara buffaloes, a species of the dairy type from India, Bulgaria and some countries like North and Latin America. This type can produce an average of 8 liters of milk daily in 300 days. Top-performing ones can produce 12 to 15 liters per day. Festivals, Taun Putik Festival, Aliaga, at the crack of dawn, scores of mud-covered, barely dressed devotees make their appearance, asking for alms and candles from the wide-awake town folks. This practice mimics a biblical myth about St. John the Baptist, who was said to have done the same thing in his lifetime. A special mass culminates the occasion, reinforcing its spiritual nature to the people of Aliaga. Ragrag Sakti Gwimba, Nueva Ecija, Gwimba's official festival which begins at February and ends at March. Preparations for the festival normally starts at January. The long festival includes Ms. Gwimba, Mr. Teen, Ms. Gay, basketball competitions, the opening band, the opening mass, and the main attraction, the Ragrag Sakti Gwimba street dance competition. There are also minor events such as cycling competitions and others. Holy Week rituals of Punkin, Carolyn, The unique Holy Week rites of Caranglan, one of the oldest towns in Nueva Ecija, are woven in folklore. Aside from the differing dialect, Pangasinans, widely used in Punkin, its distinct Lenten rituals include a hide-and-seek routine between the Flagellante and Judio, a children's parade, and a choreographed version of Christian penitential rites in which participants with charcoal-smeared faces beat bamboos. Keratin Festival, Liacob, Keratin, which means rig cart drawn by Carob, is celebrated during the annual celebration of the founding anniversary of Liacob town on March 28. Keratin plays a significant part in the history of Liacob. Don Dalmacio Scaira, the town's founding father, used Keratin when he left San Nicolas, Ilocos Norte until he finally settled and found this town in Liacob. In fitting recognition of the significance of this very important farm equipment, the LGU of Liacob adopted Keratin Festival as the town's official festival. The event features a parade of colorfully dressed Keratin floats, search of outstanding Licabanos, Agri-Aqua trade fair and beauty pageant. Baybaynting Festival, Lupao. Baybaynting is a one-of-a-kind cultural tradition of Lupao, Nueva Ecija. It is a unique cultural presentation of the people of Lupao every July 25 to honor their patron C plus or minus or Santiago or St. James. It's a cultural presentation that features the war between Muslims and Christians. This peculiar cultural tradition is presented every year by selected and well-trained members of Iglesia Filipina Independiente, a Christian sect founded by a Filipino priest. Baybaynting is a choreographed fighting which is usually performed by 9 pairs of fighting Filipino warriors and Spanish conquistadors. Performers use real bladed weapons unlike the zarzuelas that uses wooden swords. Rokkyo Festival, Panorama. Rokkyo Festival is a unique and one of its kinds in the Philippines. This festival is Nueva Ecija's very own theatrical religious presentation similar to zarzuelas during the Spanish regime in the country. The Rokkyo Festival is traditionally held in the month of May in the town of P plus or minus Aranda. The festival dramatized the spread of Christianity in the country and the war between Christians and Muslims. Festival performers, 16 performers in each Rokkyo group, sing, act and dance while a brass band plays. The choice of songs and choreography varies, but the script has remained the same since the tradition started. Tanduayong Festival, San Jose City, prides itself as the onion capital of the Philippines, and is a leading producer of onion, garlic, rice and vegetables. Every year, on the 4th Sunday of April, the people of San Jose dance through the main street in a colorful, enchanting celebration of the blessing of the harvest. On Festival Day, the streets are filled with contingents of dancers outfitted in striking, multi-hued native costumes. Exotic rhythms of improvised musical instruments fill the air as the dancers gyrate and sway to the beat of life. Special activities included are, beauty contest, tourism and trade fair, awarding ceremony and cultural shows. Pagabang Damara, San Jose City, fiestas are time to celebrate. A time to take some break. It is a time to give thanks for bounties received for the whole year. A time to get together. A time to play and re-energized. They offer a respite for people who work the entire year. And restore inspiration for another year ahead. Hundreds of years ago, here in Central Luzon, landlords in the haciendas made the farmers build the damara, just before planting time of Palay. A damara is a makeshift shelter made from kawayan and nipa, built at the center of rice fields as a protection from the sun's heat or from rain. Over the years, it has been tradition that after all the harvests were safely brought home, the damaras are demolished. People then start celebrating together for the bountiful harvest. In 2008, with rice as its primary produce, San Jose City conducted its first rice festival, adopting the centuries-old festive tradition. However, unlike in older days, wherein people celebrate separately in their barangays, San Jose City now celebrates as one big family. The after-harvest celebration has become a multi-sectoral effort, collectively prepared, funded out of contributions, and participated in by all sections of the city. Tsinilas Festival, Gapan, slippers or tsinilas made in the city of Gapan, Nueva Ecija find their way all over the country, lending credence to the city's claim to be the Tsinilas capital of the Philippines. Gapan commemorates their major industry with the Tsinilas Festival on the anniversary of their cityhood. Beautifully crafted slippers await festivals goers in a slippers bazaar along the highway. The major attraction of this festival, however, are the pairs of gigantic slippers displayed in a parade of floats. Notable persons: General Mariano Lunura Euro, 1855 Euro 1942, Mariano Lunura, who fought in the provinces of Bulacan, Tarlac, Pampanga, and Nueva Ecija. Alipio Texan became Gobernador Silo before Mariano Lunura, who was the last of the Gobernador Silos of Cabao. He was one of the original planner of the September 2, 1896 San Isidro revolt. Texan was the revolutionary colonel who was the assistant field officer in the battle cry of Nueva Ecija in San Isidro, Nueva Ecija. Appointed supreme military commander of Tarlac in 1900 and was exiled to Guam together with General Lunura. When he returned to Nueva Ecija in 1912 again, he joined an underground movement against the Americans and became brigadier general. The cry of Nueva Ecija was led by General Mariano Lunura, and assisted by General Manuel Tinio. Texan Street beside the town church is a memorial for him. Engr. Ponciano A. Bernardo Euro was the second mayor of Quezon City. Ponciano Bernardo was born in Star Rosa, Nueva Ecija, whose father immigrated from Pandy, Bulacan to Papaya, now called General Tinio, Nueva Ecija. Ponciano Bernardo's school in Ponciano Bernardo Park in Cubao, Quezon City is a memorial for him. Ponciano was killed in an ambush by Hukbalot with the Philippine First Lady Aurora Quezon on their route to Aurora. Ponciano was appointed by the second Philippine President Manuel Quezon. Prior to being mayor, he was Secretary of Department of Public Works and Highways. Ponciano was Filipino engineer and politician who served as mayor of Quezon City, holding the position from 1947 until his death in 1949. It was during his tenure that Quezon City was designated as the capital city of the Philippines. Catalino Ortiz Broca Euro Lino Broca is known as one of the greatest film directors of the Philippines. Broca was openly gay and many of his films incorporated LGBT themes into their often dramatic storylines. Broca was born in Nueva Ecija to Regina Broca, a boatmaker from Sisogan, and Pilar Ortiz, a teacher from San Jose City, Nueva Ecija. Damiana L. Eugenio is a Filipino female author and professor who is known as the Mother of Philippine Folklore, a title she received in 1986. Apart from teaching at the University of the Philippines, she has several publications in the field of Philippine folklore: Epifanio de los Santos Euro Epifanio de los Santos y Crista Cubed Bal, sometimes known as Don Paul plus or minus on or Don Paniong. He was born in 1871 in Malabon, province of Rizal, to Escalastico de los Santos of Nueva Ecija and musician Antonina Crista Cubed Bal of Malabon. He was a noted Filipino historian, literary critic, art critic, jurist, prosecutor, antiquarian, archivist, scholar, painter, poet, musician, musicologist, philosopher, philologist, bibliographer, translator, journalist, editor, publisher, paleographer, ethnographer, biographer, researcher, civil servant, patriot and hero. He was appointed director of the Philippine Library and Museum by Governor-General Leonard Wood in 1925. He was appointed district attorney of San Isidro, Nueva Ecija. He was later elected as governor of Nueva Ecija in 1902 and 1904. His election victory made him the first democratically elected provincial governor and head of the federal party in Nueva Ecija. Admiral Ramon C. Liwag PCG, born in Cabao, Nueva Ecija, is the 23rd Commandant of the Philippine Coast Guard. At the same time, he is occupying the following vital positions in the organization, namely, as Chairman, Board of Marine Inquiry. Chairman, Board of Senior Officer. Chairman, Grievance Committee. During the recently conducted 5th annual meeting of the RCAAPISC Governing Council held in Singapore last March 3, 2011, he was unanimously elected as the new chairperson of the Regional Cooperation Agreement on Combating Piracy and Armed Robbery Against Ship in Asia. Senator Juan Liwag was born on June 12, 1906 in Gapan, Nueva Ecija. He finished his high school and liberal arts at the University of the Philippines. He completed his law course in the same university as class valedictorian and copped second place in the 1932 bar examination. Prior to his election in the Senate, Liwag served in various capacities in the executive and judicial branches of the government. In 1945, he began his public service as prosecutor in the Justice Department, assuming later the position of head of the Office of Special Prosecutors. 4 years later, he was appointed judge at Large of the Court of First Instance, and the following year he was named district judge for Albay and Catanduanes. He was appointed Solicitor General in 1952, a position he held for 4 years. Lolita Eva Carino Padilla aka Mama Eva. Born on March 23, 1936 from Nagmasaman, Quiapo, Nueva Ecija, is a Filipino actress who married Casimiro Roy Padilla, Esa, from the province of Camarines Norte. She is better known as the mother of actors Rommel Padilha, Robin Padilla, Rustam Padilla aka Bibi Gandangari, and Roy Padilla. Hebe Gonzalez Bartolom is a Filipino folk and folk rock singer, songwriter, composer, poet, guitarist, bandaria player, bluesman, and painter. His music was influenced by the stylistic tradition of Philippine folk and religious melodies. Dorothy Aquisa Jones, Nieda Blanca Nieda Blanca, as popularly known by her stage name, was a Filipino actress. She starred in over 163 movies and 14 television shows and received over 16 awards for movies and 6 awards for television during her 50-year film career. She was named one of 15 Best Actress of All Time by Yes Magazine. Riza Ann Senan Simbilan, better known by her screen name Riza Senan, born on December 21, 1987 in Gapan City, Nueva Ecija, is a Filipino actress. Jaime de los Santos is a retired military general in the Philippines. He joined the Philippine Army in 1969 after graduating from the Philippine Military Academy with a degree Bachelor of Science in Military Engineering. De los Santos later on served as a brigade commander, Chief of Staff and Commanding General of an infantry division and Superintendent of the Philippine Military Academy. Damiana L. Eugenio, a Filipino female author and professor who is known as the Mother of Philippine Folklore, a title she received in 1986. Apart from teaching at the University of the Philippines, she has several publications in the field of Philippine folklore, among them is a series of 7 books which she compiled and edited. 1, 2, Frankie Evangelista a former radio and television broadcaster of ABS-CBN since 1953. Josepina Josie Padamos Fischel, the current First Lady of the Northern Mariana Islands and the wife of Governor Benigno Fischel. She became First Lady upon the inauguration of her husband as the 6th Governor of the Northern Mariana Islands on January 9, 2006. 1. Juan Pajota Captain Juan Pajota was involved in the raid at Cabanatuan, an action which took place in the Philippines on January 30, 1945 by U.S. Army Rangers and Filipino guerrillas and resulted in the liberation of more than 500 American prisoners of war from a Japanese POW camp near Cabanatuan. Fred Panapio a Filipino singer and actor who rose to fame in the 1970s. Rommel Padilha, an actor, businessman and politician. He is the part of the Padilla clan. Robin Padilla, an actor, commercial model and businessman. Roger Leo Sikat, a Filipino fictionist, playwright, translator and educator. He was born to Estanislao Sikat and Xanta Rodriguez on June 26, 1940 in Alua, San Isidro, Nueva Ecija, Philippines. He is the 6th of 8 children. Sikat graduated with a B.Lit in journalism from the University of Santo Tomas and an M.A. in Filipino from the University of the Philippines. Na copyrights de Villa was a Filipino actor frequently cast in musical films. He was a gifted dancer often paired with frequent on-screen partner Nieda Blanca in both movies and television. His dancing talent led some to call him the Fred Astaire of the Philippines, though the same moniker had also been given to Bayani Casimiro. Oscar Ray Solis, Oscar Azarzon Solis was born in San Jose City, Philippines. He studied at Christ the King Seminary of the Society of the Divine Word in Quezon City, Philippines, and at the Pontifical Royal Seminary, University of Santo Tomas, in Manila. After migrating to the United States in 1984, Father Solis served as associate pastor of St. Rocco's Parish, New Jersey, 1984-1988. With permission from his ordinary in the Philippines, he went to the Diocese of Humathibodao in 1988 where he was appointed associate pastor of St. Joseph Co-Cathedral. He was incardinated into the Diocese of Humathibodao in 1992, and was named pastor of St. Joseph Co-Cathedral in 1999. He has been a member of the Diocesan Priests' Council, the Personnel Committee and the College of Consultors. Solis is the first Filipino-American to be consecrated a bishop. Patrocinio V. Vilfuet, multi-awarded writer and educator in Filipino. Presently, he is the OIC of the Filipino Department of Philippine Normal University with a rank of full professor. Anthony Taberna, born in San Isidro, Nueva Ecija, Anthony Tunying Taberna is a Filipino broadcast journalist and radio commentator. At ABS-CBN, Taberna has hosted television and radio programs covering news and public affairs. He is currently hosting Umagang Kay Ganda and XXX, Exclusibang, Explosibang, Exposa Copyright. As a DZMM commentator, Taberna is one of the lead anchors for Dos Podos, a daily morning and late afternoon show, along with Jerry Barja. He is also the sole anchor of News Plus in ABS-CBN Sports Plus Action. Kathryn Bernardo, born in Cabanatuan, Nueva Ecija, Kathryn Chandria Manuel Bernardo was her full name. She is a Filipino actress and her career was started in 2003. She is best known for her role as Mara in the primetime Filipino drama, Mara Clara. Kathryn is currently a contract artist of Star Magic and ABS-CBN, 3, and most recently starred as Ana Bartolom in the 2011 drama film, Way Back Home. She currently plays the main protagonist, Shijay, in the primetime series Got to Believe. Willie Revelame, a Novo Ecijano in Cabanatuan City, Nueva Ecija but he was born in Manila, Philippines. He started his career in 1986. He is a television host, actor, comedian and a recording artist in the Philippines. Jose Carcabalagtas, a film director, writer, and actor. He is the Vice Mayor of San Antonio, Nueva Ecija. Joanna Cindy Miranda, a Filipina model and host from Rizal, Nueva Ecija, who won the Binibining Pilipinas Tourism 2013 crown and will represent the country in Miss Tourism Queen International in Lhasa, Tibet in the first week of September, 2013. Paulo Ballesteros, is a Filipino actor, TV host and model. He has appeared in films and several TV shows. Currently, he is managed by talent manager Joji Dingkong who also handled actors Paolo Pascual and Kogi Domingo for a time. Mylene Dizon, a Filipina and actress, is a contract artist of ABS-CBN. She appears in different programs of the network. She came from the clan of Dizon in San Isidro. Liza Soberano, Hope Elizabeth Soberano, a young Filipino-American model and actress, is a contract artist of ABS-CBN and Star Magic. Her great-grandparents Isabel Jacinto Arvalo and Olympia Alnes Padilla were from Gapan and from Caranglan. Ruel S. Bayani, is a Filipino film and television director, writer, producer, who is best known for directing movies like One More Time and No Other Woman and company directing television show like Budoy, Koki, Mula Zapaso from Cabanatuan City. John Paul Lizardo, also known as Japoy Lizardo, is a Filipino Taekwondo Asian Games bronze medalist, actor and commercial model from Cabanatuan City. Yen Santos, a Filipina actress and dancer part of ABS-CBN Star Magic had appeared in Growing Up, 2011 Philippine TV series, and current teleserye Pure Love from Cabanatuan City. Jason Abalos, an actor dancer and commercial model part of ABS-CBN Star Magic from Pampanga Nueva Ecija. See also, List of radio stations in Nueva Ecija, Super Regions of the Philippines, Miss Carolyn Gamora Mazabay, first runner-up to the Mutu NG Pilipinas, 1973 and became Miss Asia Pacific. Hailed from Zaragoza, Nueva Ecija. References. External links: Nueva Ecija Now and Beyond, official website of the province of Nueva Ecija, Philippine Tourism, Nueva Ecija University of Science and Technology, Nueva Ecija High School, Central Luzon State University, Philippine Standard Geographic Code, 2010 Census of Population and Housing, Local Governance Performance Management System, Hipólito, Jose. A History of Cabao. Cabao Books. 2010.